Okay, hello. I'm gonna wait for you guys to show up. I think what happened is, okay, there's one person watching. Great. I've just been talking for 5 minutes to nobody. I think what happened is, I actually have like 15 pre-scheduled streams like in my YouTube at any one time. That like the description is there, the thumbnail is there, like the link to the source is there, all of that. But they're all just set on private until I decide to actually do them. So I think that I like started the live stream, but it was still set to private. So like I was technically streaming, but like nobody could see it because it was on private. Lol. Yeah. All right. So no, I've just been talking to no one for 5 minutes. I felt very dumb. I was like texting my friends, being like, "Can you see the live stream?" Like, okay. So this one has the wrong thumbnail, but the right description. I'll change the thumbnail and put it at the end of the playlist later. All right. So for those of you who are like longtime viewers like Sabrina and Possible Person, you probably remember that I've done final discussions of books that have taken like 2 or 3 hours, and I would reference like specific quotes, specific like concepts from each specific chapter. Like, I'm not going to do that today because, we did like half this book like a year ago, and then like we had a huge hiatus, and then we came back. So I can't remember all those tiny details, the minutiae of this book. But I am going to give some of my general thoughts on the book, things that I found positive about it, who I'd recommend it to, that kind of thing. I think my top 2 favorite things about this book is the non-judgmental tone. And a lot of that is down to the fact that the author will say, like, this is kind of not great when women do that. And here's why. But at the end of the day, like, I do that. And I'm sure some of you do that. Like the conversational tone that she has throughout the book is very like, let's just like explore this together. This is what I think. But actions don't always match up with like your values or whatever. Like we all have to like make do with what we can realistically handle in our day-to-day life. And that is like the number one thing missing from discussions regarding the performance of femininity in online spaces right now. Like, the only time I ever see like even a little bit of a concession that like real life can be a problem for your values is when women talk about job interviews. So there's like radical feminist women who are like, no one, like if you are performing femininity to any extent in public, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting other women. And the only concession they'll say is like, well, if you're doing a job interview and you're trying to get hired, like then I guess. And even that, sometimes they don't agree on that. But it's just like so hardline to the point where it's like impractical. And I appreciate that this book is like, she's like, I think it was, there's several times where she talks about like shaving her legs or like wearing a bra or something. And she's like, I don't think that, I understand why women do it. And basically she's saying that she doesn't think women should have to do it. But she's like, let's be real, like I do it and here's why. And I just the non-judgmental tone of the book that's like, let's discuss this together. It's like A+, like amazing, great. And kind of going off of that, I love how she explains the harm that it does to women without being like, you, the reader, you're harming women. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The tone that she has is like fucking fantastic. The other thing that I love about this book is the historical context. Like, honestly, I thought we were going to see more stuff like, is it in the Victorian or Edwardian era when women would like, I think she did mention this a little bit, but like, women would put like freaking like mercury like on their skin and put like belladonna poison like in their eyeballs to make their like pupils dilate. Like they would like chemically burn their lips so they would look more red. Like she didn't even go to the most extreme harms. Like she mentioned foot binding and stuff that is very extreme. But I think in general, she was kind of like, why did women wear corsets? Let's talk about that a bit. she doesn't go to like super extremes, and she still makes the point. I like how she gives historical context without it being like a history lesson. Like I never felt like I was opening a chapter and being like, oh great, here we go, 50 pages about like the history of why women do their hair in different ways. Like she was like, okay, here's the content I want to discuss. Here's some like history to like set up your understanding of it, and like let's discuss like how that history informs the modern behavior around this, whether it's like, you know, shaving your body or wearing heels or whatever. So yeah, those are the two things I like the most about books: the historical context without it making it like too heavy or too much of a slog, and the like non-judgmental, friendly tone that the whole thing was done in. Those are my two favorite things about this book. No, turf mail. We haven't done this book twice. We did half of the book, and then I took a hiatus, and then we finished the book. So yeah. Yeah, who would I recommend this book for? I actually think this is a great book for women who are reticent about feminism, because it's not really saying like I'm a feminist and I think this and you should do that. Like it doesn't have that mentality at all. Like several times she's mentioned like, you know, I grew up doing this, my mom grew up doing that, and here we are 20 years after my like, you know, coming of age, and this is what the feminists are doing. She just sets it up as like a progression of time and how things have changed. So every time she mentions feminists, she's not saying like you should do this because I'm a feminist and I think this is what's right. She's just saying like this is how we were all taught, that's how we think about what we were taught, this is what the feminists are saying, and this is how women have changed a little bit, or this is what the feminists are saying and this is society's reaction to that. Like she mentions, this is from last year, I don't remember the details very much, but she mentions like women not wearing bras, women wearing like more revealing clothes because they're just like less self-conscious about trying to cover their bodies, and how it can be viewed as either like you're like a slut or you're like some crazy man-hating feminist. And she mentions like societal reactions to that. So she's not putting it in terms of feminists said this and that's perfect and great and we should all aspire to that. She's very like, it's like she's taken a step back and is presenting it to the audience. And I think that makes this book a good candidate for someone who's not necessarily feminist inclined to think a little bit about why they're doing what they're doing and the history of that and where it comes from. Like, at the end of the day, most feminist analysis is about asking why. Why are you doing that? Right? Why do you look in the mirror and adjust where your pants are and then look again to see what your waistline looks like? You know, like why do you see your hairy legs in the shower and think, oh, like that's gross, right? Like why? And I think if you want to just get a woman asking why, not tell her like you should stop performing femininity, but asking why about stuff, then this book is a great primer for that. The thing I wish there was like a sequel to this that was set in like modern times, because there's so much stuff like about makeup specifically. I think she kind of touches on this, but in like now in the year 2024, there are a lot of discussions about what are the chemicals in the makeup, because like depending on what country you're in and what country the makeup was made in, there's a lot of like really toxic shit in makeup that everybody thinks like, oh, that was like, you know, pre-industrial makeup was really sketch, and now we're in the world where the FDA exists, so the makeup must be fine. Or like she mentions a little bit the debilitating effect of like long acrylic nails. Or no, she more specifically talks about like before acrylic nails. She mentions acrylic nails, but she mostly talks about how it's like a point of pride that women could grow their nails, like their natural nails, long and keep them looking like synthetically perfect. And it was like a mark of like failure to be feminine if you couldn't do that. And she talks about like the debilitating effect it has to have long nails. And like, I honestly would love to read an entire book about like the history and impact of acrylic nails on women. I can't get over it. Like if you're on TikTok like I am and you I follow a lot of my TikTok is not like I have like an anonymous TikTok where I don't post anything. And I follow like meal prep stuff and like women who renovate their own houses and like women who do like homesteading kind of, you know what I'm talking, like that's I like watching like women doing things, being productive. And it's so crazy to me to see these women who are like who clearly spend like hours every day in the kitchen or hours every day in the garden, and they have like these huge ass fucking nails, and I'm like, you can see like the way it makes what they're doing harder. Like they've obviously gotten used to it, but like I don't know, to me it's just like fascinating and insane. So I would love to read like a next, an entire book about that. Trying to think of like something else that I really like about this book is she talks about the different like stages throughout your life. One of the most impactful passages for me in this entire book, I think, was in chapter 1, Body. Yes, it was in chapter 1, Body, where she talks about like, I think she said she was like 12 and she looked in front of the mirror for the first time and realized that she was supposed to be self-conscious. Like she looked in front of the mirror and was like, let's judge my body based on what society is supposed to see. Like I think she said like the girls in her class had started like growing boobs or something. And she was like, oh, I should judge myself. And if I do judge myself, like what's lacking and what's missing and how can I get that thing? And just the visceral way she described that, I might find it and post it on like Twitter like as a quote, or maybe post it on YouTube as a quote. The visceral way she described that to me was like so profound, because like a lot of women when they talk about gender dysphoria, right? They have trouble articulating how it started, the experience of it, like they have trouble articulating the reality of it. And then aside from that, or perhaps not even aside from, but literally just the experience of every woman, is that at some point you become aware what you're supposed to look like versus what you actually do look like. And like, how do you get from one point to the other, or that, like that kind of thinking, right? And oh, I totally lost my train of thought. Sometimes I wish I could like skip back 15 seconds of my own live stream to see what I'm saying. Oh yeah, I just think it was like very profound that it's like a universal experience of all women. And I I would challenge any woman, even an anti-feminist woman, to read the first chapter of this book and not see that it reflects some of her own experience. Yeah, and I think that this book is going to be really impactful regardless of where you fall on like the gender normative or gender presentation spectrum. Like because at the end of the day, like you could look at a woman, I don't know who, like Kim Kardashian or something, like you could look at a woman and think like, wow, that woman has achieved the pinnacle of femininity. And I guarantee you that she looks at herself and thinks, I'm a failure of femininity. I haven't done enough, right? And you could look at someone like me. I mean, not you, but like in general, a person could look at me and think, wow, she's a failure of femininity. Like the internal versus external, looking from the outside, I think a lot of women could be judged as like successful or unsuccessful at femininity. But from the inside, I think all women view themselves as failures of femininity. Now, your reaction to that, like me, I'm definitely a failure of femininity, but I kind of view it as like a badge of honor. And I'm not trying to succeed at femininity. Like it's more like an acknowledgement of this is what society expects, and I don't do that. I don't think that there's any woman, butch, mask, femme, gender conforming straight woman, awkward teenager coming of age, who could read this book and not feel spoken to. Like there was so many times, I think it was the movement chapter where she talked about like being told to sit like a lady. And I remembered so profoundly, like my experience of that, of being told to move my body in a way, to use my body in a way that was feminine, and to stop doing it in a way that was unfeminine. And I just can't imagine that there's... Okay, this is my point, I guess. My point is that we have all experienced being women in society, okay? So we have all experienced the weight of the expectations. How the weight of those expectations impacts you might be different, but being able to deconstruct what the messages were, why you got the messages, and who was going to benefit from the way you reacted to those messages. So, you know, A, you are wasting your time and money to try to meet men on like an even playing field of like looking professional, for example. Or your reaction was, fuck all this shit. And then, like me, you do really bad job interviews because you don't like, you know, look like what people are expecting. So I just think it's a good like social commentary on the expectation, like the gender expectations that are like womanhood. Like that's the other thing too, is she is an author who uses the term gender, right? But it's very clear what she's talking about when she says gender. She's talking about the social expectations that are on women because they're females. And it's really, 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 really clear that she's like, you know, women have curves. And this is why in like XYZ eras, we introduced it like the bustier and the corset and like the, what do you call those things you like put on like under your dress to make your like hips and ass look bigger and all that. Like she's like, we introduced all these things to like accentuate the female body to an extreme degree, to like, you know, clarify the difference between masculine and feminine like in society. And you know that she's talking about a social expectation that's based on biology but is not actually biology. She makes it very clear what gender is without ever spelling it out. Like she's just over and over again explaining like, okay, so the female body has like brighter lips, your lips are different color than your skin, thus lipstick. Is that it's not proof that it's a part of your biology to wear lipstick, but that your social expectation is based on your biology, right? I just think it makes it very clear, and I like that about this book. The other thing I really appreciate about this book, which is something that I appreciate in a lot of essayists, but I think there's like a lot of more like highbrow feminist literature that fails to do this, is that she has like some kind of core tenets that she keeps like reinforcing throughout the book. This is like very common of essayists, at least in my experience, where she talks about like femininity is a couple of things. At its core, femininity is meant to accentuate the differences between male and female bodies to the point of like a behavior and a mindset and a visible reality beyond the body, right? But there's certain things where she's like, she mentions like these like dichotomies, right? Like the dependent versus the like dependee, right? Or like the vulnerable versus the strong, or like the agile versus the immobile. Like she keeps mentioning like these specific dichotomies, and through mentioning these dichotomies over and over and over again, the image becomes very clear to me of like women are supposed to like not speak, supposed to look attractive but look like it takes no effort to be attractive. They're supposed to be fit but not be seen to exercise. Like all of these things, you just realize that it's truly a paradoxical position that is completely impossible, completely untenable. And I think it's one thing for a woman to look at Kim Kardashian and say, I could never look, or what, I don't know social pop media things. Okay, like look at some woman and think that is the pinnacle of femininity and there's no way I could ever achieve it. That's a very different situation than understanding, like at its very core, the entire concept of femininity is designed to be impossible. It's designed to waste your time and energy to attain something that no woman could ever attain, right? Like even like even if you bring money into it, like say you are like a celebrity who has a lot of money, well, you won't spend hours doing your hair because you pay someone to do it. You won't spend, but you still spend like 30 minutes having your hair done. you won't spend time every day shaving because you had the money to get electrolysis, but you still have to spend time, money. Like the entire concept that it's like an effortless thing that is natural to women, doesn't matter who you are, it's completely fucking untrue. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on the book. I recommend this book to like literally anyone. There are not many books that I feel the way that I feel about this book. That was a very bad sentence. The way I feel about this book is very unique. That's a better sentence. I can't think of any other book on this channel that I would happily and confidently recommend to a woman who is ambivalent about feminist or thinks like she's like a liberal feminist who I view as anti-feminist, or a woman who is like an outright anti-feminist. Like I think this book can be read by almost any woman and would have a positive impact on her, regardless of whether she walks away thinking that feminists are still like a bunch of crazy ladies, right? I think that this book could still have a positive impact on her. Maybe I'm naive, but this book, the tone is just so well done. Very happy with it. So if you guys have any other thoughts or feelings about the book, like now is the time to put it in the live chat. Just like a bit of an update. When we started reading this book, I was so impressed with the writing style. Oh, first of all, I fucking love, I really, really love her vocabulary. Like the lexicon of this book is amazing. I love the way that she would use like different but similar words to like broaden a concept in like very subtle ways throughout a chapter. I love the linguistics of this book. Like super, super satisfying as a reader. But right, I wanted to just bring up when I first started reading this book, I was so impressed with the writing that I was like, we're definitely going to read Against Our Will, Men, Women, and Rape by the same author. Then I talked to some women who had read it, and basically a bunch of them had to say like it was so, the graphic descriptions of sexual violence were so upsetting to them that the book like emotionally scarred them. And I'm not trying to like judge the book and say like it's bad or something. I'm just saying maybe I don't think YouTube is the place for that kind of book. So I don't think we're going to read it on the channel. I think what I might do is read it by myself and then read excerpts of it on the channel. Honestly, I don't like reading depressing books, whether in fiction or nonfiction. I read a very depressing fiction book a few days ago that like made me cry and made me depressed. And reading a depressing fiction book is like, you know, sad and everything, but then you can just start a different fiction book and get like happy again. Reading a depressing nonfiction book that's feminist takes like a lot of psyching up. Like I remember reading Pornography by Dworkin. Like it takes a lot of psyching up, and then it leaves like such an impression. Like every time I open any media now, like the lessons I learned from Pornography by Dworkin are like in my head and I can never forget them. So I definitely want to read that book eventually, but I need to like be in the right headspace to do that. I'm not sure what that would look like. So yeah. The next book that we're absolutely going to read is Willful Virgin by Marilyn Frye. When I met her this summer, she said this was the sequel to The Politics of Reality, which like on Wikipedia or Goodreads or whatever, it's not clear that that's what this is supposed to be. It's just like other essays by her. So now I have it. Also, oh my god, guys. So I ordered this on Amazon, which I then realized was actually through thrift books. But because of like Amazon didn't have to pay for shipping, so whatever. My point is this book came from like thrift books, which is like a gigantic used books like warehouse in Atlanta. And I got it, and I don't know if you can see this. Who's gonna focus? Oh, come on, focus. Okay, well, whatever. There's this sticker on it that the camera will not focus on. And the sticker says, "A Woman's Place Bookstore." And it's like got this little like drawing of like books that have like little like labrises and little like Venus symbols and stuff. And then there's like a phone number at the bottom. So I Googled the name plus the phone number, and it turns out that this book was originally sold at a women's bookstore in Calgary, in Canada. I'm not sure when, it was originally sold, obviously. But this book was originally sold in Canada, presumably to a Canadian woman, ended up in Atlanta in a big warehouse, and then made it back to me and other Canadian women. I think that's pretty fucking cool. I'm very happy to have this in my library. Yeah, so I'm going to read the acknowledgments and introduction to this. Not today. I really wanted to do it today, but I need to like shovel before we lose the daylight, and then I have a bunch of chores I need to do, and then I have my second job this afternoon and this evening, so I need to like go do things. But I'm gonna schedule a couple of these readings, and then we'll start it in the next couple days. So as usual, the readings will be on Wednesdays and Fridays at noon New York time, Montreal time, Toronto time, which is 9 a.m. California time and 5 p.m. London time. Yeah, so this is the next book we're reading. Very last thing, not on the topic of books, my reaction live streams, they're popular and you guys seem to like them and stuff, but I really don't want to talk about the same woman over and over and over again. A couple of you have been sending me a lot of emails about the same like 3 different women. And we've done 3 live streams now in like a 7-day period mentioning one woman in particular, and we did 1 live stream about these other 2 women. Like I don't want to just be focusing on particular women. It seems I don't want to be like a person who's like a magnet for negative attention. I don't want to turn into like a bullying type thing, or like a everybody who hates that woman shows up to my stream. Like I don't want it to be like that. I like to criticize actions, and I like to criticize political dynamics. And I think I find it interesting to see a woman who says, this is my goal, this is my politics, and then analyze how does that actually look? How does that translate into action on her part, or behavior or thinking on her part? And maybe it's a bit arrogant for me to enjoy that kind of analysis, but I just do. So here we are. But I will do a reaction to almost anything. Some of you might have watched, I did a reaction to like the Toronto mayoral debates, where there was like a bunch of like LGBT stuff, and it was held at like, that's still up on my channel in my miscellaneous live stream playlist. I've done like reactions to like Twitter threads where like detrans men were attacking detrans women. Like I'll react to almost anything. It doesn't need to be like what is the most current GC drama. So please send me like emails of stuff you want me to react to, even if it's like old, like maybe it's an internet thing that happened like 2014. Like I don't care. If you think it's something that I would appreciate reacting to and that you guys would find interesting, send it to me. Yeah. Right, I'm going to read the live chat a bit and react to what you guys are saying, and then we're going to wrap this up so I can go shovel while we still have daylight. Oh, happy birthday, Sabrina. OMG, happy birthday, possible person. Univermea says, agreed, Benji, this book is unique. It is the analysis about femininity. Every woman should read it. It's also such a light read. Like, I think altogether, it's how many pages is it? Okay, well, to me, this is a light read. It's only 230 pages. Lavender says that she read Brownmiller in high school. I wish I had read her in high school. Like, I graduated, well, I didn't graduate when I was in grade 12. I had to do like a second half of a year. But the year that I was in the 12th grade, like I'm an American, the year that I was in the 12th grade, I discovered Andrea Dworkin. And that was like the April before I graduated, or before my 12th grade year ended in June. Oh, Nick's is also her birthday. Everyone's birthday. Sabrina says the most feminist and pro-lesbian thing you could do is come hang out with me in Boston and New York City so we can go wife hunting. I actually know quite a few women in New York City, and I keep being like, I should just go. Like, I think for me to drive there is less than 10 hours. And I'm like, I could do that in a day, especially if I knew someone I could like sleep on their couch. Um, I keep being like, I should do that, but my life is just very hectic. Anung, exactly. Anung says, focus on the issues, ideas over personality. Very much agree. We could get an Airbnb in Massachusetts. I want to visit Northampton just because its reputation of being like the lesbian, center of New England or whatever. Wouldn't it be cool if I like was chilling at an Airbnb in Northampton and reading like a book about the history of Smith College or something? Yeah. Um, Lavender says we've been screaming about focus on ideas into the void for about 2 years now. Yeah. That's why I'm also annoyed at this language thing. Okay, we've definitely gotten off topic, but I saw that Posey Parker was like, I challenge any feminist to come on and like debate me about pronouns. I don't even know what her position is on them. I think is she an ultra or she was one of the women calling other women ultras? I don't know. But my view on pronouns is extremely nuanced. It's situational, right? What is your goal? Okay. Is using pronouns or not using pronouns going to help you achieve that goal? And it's that simple. My goal always is to reach women, is to get women to feel that they have commonalities with other women. Now, obviously, language informs thought, and if you're thinking a certain way, it will prevent you from seeing your commonalities with other women. But to get to the point where you're willing to change your language, I think you need to have the emotional connection to other women that makes you motivated to do that. And I think to get to that point, you need to be able to have discussions where you internalize concepts and question presumptions you have, and to start asking those questions or internalize those concepts of commonality, you need to be able to have a conversation in goodwill with an open mind. And if you are someone who believes strongly in gender shit, you are never going to be able to have a conversation with someone where you are open-minded and willing to entertain what they're trying to tell you if they're using language that sends your hackles up. It's that fucking simple to me. I have had some really good conversations with TIFs who I'm sure are still trans activists who, throughout the conversation, I used gender language to express radical feminist perspectives that they had never heard before. And my entire purpose was I want them to go away asking questions about the things they're experiencing in their day-to-day life in the trans community. And I want them to go away knowing that there's a woman on the other side who cared enough to reach out to them on their own level and have that conversation with them. And we're not all these evil meanies. So I'm very nuanced on the position of pronouns. I don't use pronouns in my day-to-day life, especially in situations where I know it's not going to have like some kind of dire consequences for me. I know I don't use pronouns. But I think there's merit on all sides of the argument, and I think that there just needs to be more nuance in the conversation. So I'm kind of like, should I go on Posey Parker to talk about it? It's that. I don't know. I love this phrase. I'm not generally bothered by how I'm pronouned. That's cute. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to end this now. I will see you all. Okay, let's be for real. Tomorrow, my morning job is not happening. So I'll probably do the first reading of this tomorrow morning. If not, then definitely Wednesday. Either way, it will be pre-scheduled. So like if you have your notifications turned on. And also, I've been trying to be really good about tweeting about when I'm about to do a live stream. So if you turn notifications for my Twitter, I guess that's also a good way. Yeah. Yep. Right. All right. Well, you all have a great Friday. I will see you all next time. Okay. Bye.